Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am Deborah and I feel privileged to welcome you all on behalf of the Organizing Committee to the Primary Healthcare 12 Biennial Conference. This year under the title Primary Healthcare Unlocking its Full Potential. This year's conference will focus on the growth of the primary healthcare and the way forward. We can start immediately and leave it up to the keynote speakers to give us a walkthrough on the remarkable levels of development. Wish you all an interesting and fruitful day. I now welcome Honorable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Health, Mr. Chris Fearn, on stage to deliver his opening speech. Buongiorno.
Bonġu, ġurnata tajba. Bravi, il-ħajja fiha ħafna deċiżjonijiet kull jum. Dalodu minn x'san nilbes ingravata ħamra, jew ingravata blu, jew ingravata kannella. Se nsajru, se niklu, mhux se naraw television jew noqogħdu naraw ktieb, se naraw fuq television. Ħafna deċiżjonijiet li ta' kuljum ikunu deċiżjonijiet żgħar b'konsegwenzi żgħar. Però mbagħad ikun hemm deċiżjonijiet akbar, mhux neċessarjament li nieħduhom kuljum, konsegwenzi kbar ukoll. Il-partner li ħanażlu għal ħajjitna naħseb l-ikbar deċiżjoni bl-ikbar konsegwenzi illi ikollna f'ħajjitna u se jkollna tfal, kemm se jkollna tfal, konsegwenzi kbar ħafna, deċiżjonijiet kbar ħafna. Fejn ħammorru noqogħdu, u x'noqogħdu u se nixtru dar u se nixtru flat, u x'fin-naħa t'isfel jew naħa ta' fuq, u x'viċin il-mami jew x'il-bogħod, kollha bil-konsegwenzi tagħhom, u x-xogħol u x'karriera ħaneħdu. Aħna li hawn din il-Kamra u għaluf oħrajn bħalna li jaħdmu fis-settur tas-saħħa ħadna d-deċiżjoni pjuttost kmieni f'ħajjitna illi nażlu karriera fil-qasam tas-saħħa. Deċiżjoni li għandha konsegwenzi, mhux biss fuqna u fuq il-qraba tagħna u l-familja tagħna, imma ta' kuljum fuq għexieren ta' persuni oħrajn illi jintaqgħu magħna. Id-deċiżjoni li aħna ħadna li nkunu parti mis-Servizz tas-Saħħa ta' Malta tagħtina l-opportunità illi ta' kuljum nagħmlu differenza għall-aħjar fil-ħajja tan-nies. Ftit huma dawk il-karrieri, dawk il-professjonijiet, dak ix-xogħol, dawk il-jobs illi tuk l-opportunità illi ta' kuljum. Sija wara l-oħra, kultant aktar minn darba fis-sija illi tagħmel differenza sinifikanti fil-ħajja tan-nies. Aħna li naħdmu ġo dan is-settur għandna dik l-opportunità. Għażilna dil-karriera, studjajna, stinkajna, imissa għandna dil-opportunità illi ta' kuljum nagħmlu differenza sinifikanti fil-ħajja tan-nies. Naħseb din hija l-iżjed ħaġa, l-isbaħ ħaġa illi għandna aħna li naħdmu fil-qasam tas-saħħa. Tista' tkun jiena għamilt ħafna snin naħdem kirurgu ta' tfal ta' kuljum, tagħmel operazzjoni ma tistax tkun qed tagħmel bidla aktar f'ħajja ta' persuna milli qed tagħmel operazzjoni dak il-ħin. Imma kull wieħed waħda minna fil-kliniċi, fis-swali, aħna fejn aħna qegħdin nagħmlu l-differenza fil-ħajja tan-nies. U dak huwa s-sabiħ illi taħdem fil-qasam tas-saħħa. L-istess, il-qasam tas-saħħa mingħajr il-professjonisti, mingħajr l-impjegati tagħna, mingħajrkom, mingħajrna, ma jistax jaħdem, ma jistax ikollok servizz tas-saħħa illi huwa qed jagħti servizz, illi huwa qed jagħti servizz tajjeb, jekk m'għandekx l-aqwa riżorsa li hija riżorsa umana. Aħna intkom li hawn ġod il-Kamra u oħrajn bħalna. U s-servizz tas-saħħa, kull servizz tas-saħħa fid-dinja, imma aħna s-servizz tas-saħħa ta' Malta ċertament huwa affokat, huwa bbażat Jiddependi minn kemm għandna nies jaħdmu fil-qasam tas-saħħa tagħna li huma dedikati, li huma kwalifikati, li huma kompetenti u li huma diligenti. Aħna f'Malta fortunati jew għax ħdimna, forsi mhux il-fortuna, forsi żmien snin ta' tradizzjoni ta' standards qawwija li għandna servizz tas-saħħa li huwa eċċellenti għax għandna riżorsa umana li hija eċċellenti. Ta' da fismi fisem mhux il-gvern, fisem il-pazjenti, fisem iċ-ċittadini nirringrazzjakom bil-qalb tax-xogħol kbir illi tagħmlu. Jiena bħala dis-sena għandi l-onur li jiena l-President tal-Assembleja Dinjija tas-Saħħa. Ittini l-opportunità aktar milli kelli diġà anke bħala Ministru f'dawn l-aħħar 10 snin issa, illi nintaqa' ma' ministri minn pajjiżi differenti, anke minn barra l-Ewropa, nżur sptarijiet differenti u iżjed ma nintaqa', ma nara u ma mmur nara sistemi tas-saħħa oħrajn madwar id-dinja iżjed napprezza kemm għandna ġewwa pajjiżna biex nkunu kburin. Aħna li nofru dan is-servizz, illi aħna dan is-servizz, servizz tas-saħħa aħna. Kemm għandna biex nkunu kburin, kultant laqqas napprezzaw. X'servizz nagħtu aħna stess, laqqas napprezzaw servizz nagħtu lill-klijenti tagħna. Issa jekk kull ġurnata ta' kull ġimgħa, ta' kull xahar, ta' kull sena, ħassib jekk tiftaħ il-Facebook min jgħid dik kienet aħjar, dik ċara. Jekk ikollok 1000 pazjent 999 ikollhom joħorġu b'mod sodisfatt. L-wieħed li ma joħroġ ċara li ħajamel ħajkun il-persuna li ħajgur. Anka dak il-wieħed irridu niġru warajh u rridu naraw li ma jkollniex. Ħafna drabi il-problemi li jkollna ma jkunux problemi ta' kura, ma jkunux problemi ta' riżultati. U aħna jiena l-ewwel wieħed bħala kirurgu kelli dejjem l-attitudni isma' aħna fejjaqnilek it-tifel salvajnilek ħajtek billi għamilt sejja tistenna x'ġara. Anke dik l-esperjenza kollha rridu li tkun esperjenza ta' eċċellenza. Jiena ġimgħa l-oħra l-mara llum, mara tabiba taħdem magħkom, għalti nisimgħek kuljum ma se niġi nisimgħek dalgħodu, mhux tagħmel. Imma ġimgħa l-oħra morna niklu ġo restorant, kien l-ikel eċċellenti, is-servizz first class, l-ambjent mhux isbaħ minnu, ma kien it-temperatura ma kienx tajba, garrejt jien u ma ħriġ sodisfatt. Ġifieri mhux is-servizz mediku biss jgħod, imma anke dak kollu ta' madwaru. Allura rridu noqogħdu attenti u jiena kuntent ħafna illi aħna l-istaff tagħna huwa attent ħafna illi s-servizz li nagħtu jkun servizz komplut għax huwa dak illi fl-aħħar mill-aħħar il-pazjent jgħaddi minnu. Vera illi nsalvaw l-ħajjiet hija l-prijorità, vera illi l-pazjent nikkurawh, illi nieħdu ħsiebu, imma anke l-esperjenza li jgħaddi minnha tajjeb li l-esperjenza tkun tajba wkoll. U dan qed nafsu aktar fuq u r-riżultati qed ikunu tajbin. Aħna l-akbar employer ta' Malta, Dipartiment tas-Saħħa. Għandna l-permsek hawnhekk ara kollox fuq spaltu, għandna il-miss kassar ukoll kollox fuq spallejhom, qedlek li ħansemmik. L-ikbar employers ta' Malta. Però għandna bżonn aktar staff, għandna bżonn aktar nurses, għandna bżonn aktar radiographers, għandna bżonn aktar anestetisti, għandna bżonn aktar spiżjara, għandna bżonn aktar social workers għax is-servizz tagħna qed jespandi. Qiegħed inkabruh, dejjem nikbru. Jekk tħares li s-servizz tas-saħħa llum, anke tikkomparaha ma' 5 snin ilu, anke tikkomparaha ma' 10 snin ilu, tara kemm qed nikbru u x'pjanijiet għandna biex inkomplu nikbru. U allura tajjeb illi aħna stess nagħmlu r-riklam tas-servizzi li nagħtu ta' kemm huwa rewarding dan ix-xogħol, ta' kif ta' x'privileġġ għandna li kultant aħna ninsoħ li ta' kull filgħodu nistgħu nqumu u ngħidu llum jien ħankun qiegħed nagħmel bidla fil-ħajja ta' tant nies ta' kull filgħaxija qabel ma morru norqdu nistgħu ngħidu jiena llum tejjeb il-ħajja ta' 10, 20, 15 ruħ. Ftitu ma dawk il-każijiet, ftitu ma jiena naf nies li għandhom ġobb li darba fis-sena jħossu li jagħmlu xi ħaġa tajba lil xi ħadd u li tkun għamlitilhom s-sena sħiħa. Aħna nagħmluha ta' kuljum, il-ħin kollu. Ejja nxandru għadi, ejja ngħidu għadi min għandu tfal żgħar li qegħdin jikbru, liż-żgħażagħ li qegħdin jistudjaw, li qegħdin jażlu karriera biex meta jagħmlu dik id-deċiżjoni illi kollha konsegwenzi mhux biss għalihom imma għal kulħadd jażlu illi jitlu fil-qasam tas-saħħa. Għandna bżonn aktar nies, ejja nkomplu nagħmlu aħna stess ir-riklam tagħna nfusna. Naturalment in-nies iridu fejn jaħdmu, in-nies iridu fejn l-apparat biex jaħdmu bih. U aħna qegħdin inkomplu nespandu. Aħna qegħdin anke fil-qasam tal-kura primarja qegħdin inkomplu nespandu bħalma tafu intkom f'dawn l-aħħar snin irġajna tajna imbuttatura qawwija lill-kunċett tal-kura fl-irħula u fl-ibliet tagħna. Ġifieri ċ-ċentri komunitarji tas-saħħa, il-bereċ, jekk trid issejħulhom hekk, illi llum ħafna minnkom taħdmu ġo fihom tafu li m'għadhomx kamra mudlama li tiftaħ nofsija fil-ġimgħa, ma għandna ċentri ġo ħafna bliet u l-ħura illi jagħtu servizz tajjeb ħafna, ġo ambjent illi huwa jilqak tajjeb ħafna bl-apparat illi huwa neċessarju u ħankomplu nkabru. Din il-ġimgħa ħankunu qegħdin niftħu il-ċentru komunitarju ġewwa l-Iklien. F'Ottubru ħaniftħu ħad-Dingli u l-Qala ġewwa Għawdex u mbagħad f'Novembru ħaniftħu s-Siġġiewi. Għaddej xogħol ġibir Zabbuġa, għandna l-premises ġewwa San Ġiljan, ħriġna seħħa għal premises ġewwa Ħażebbuġ u ġewwa Burmarrat. Ġifier dan huwa l-kunċett li ħankomplu nkabbru, irridu nkomplu naslu aktar biċin in-nies u nixtieq u qed nieħu pjaċir li qed nara illi ċ-ċentri komunitarji tas-saħħa li għandna diġà miftuħin, 25-26 wieħed għandna issa, sal-aħħar tas-sena nkunu lħaqna 30. Nużawhom mhux biss għal ftit sigħat filgħodu, ma nużawhom matul il-ġurnata kollha u nużawhom anke biex nagħtu servizzi illi sa ftit snilu kienu biss issibhom ġo ċentri tas-saħħa jekk mhux ġo l-isptarijiet tagħna. U tajjeb illi daw qegħdin ninżlu nkunu viċin in-nies, nkunu ġo l-bliet u ġo l-irħula. Bħalma qegħdin nagħmlu anke bit-tisbieħ u l-immodernizzar taċ-ċentri tas-saħħa tagħna. Sena u nofsilu ftaħna l-Gżira, xarajn ilu ftaħna, xar nofsilu ftaħna bil-Kirkara, palissa tafu għaddej xogħol ġewwa Ħarqormi, għaddej xogħol ġewwa Rabat, sena d-dieħla nibdew il-Florjana, nibdew Bormla u nkomplu nduru kollox. Naturalment, l-idea hi mhux biss li nsebħu, mhux biss li ndaħlu apparat ġdid, imma anke ndaħlu servizzi ġodda. Pereżempju, waħed mis-servizzi li qed nieħu pjaċir nara li sena d-dieħla nkunu qegħdin nintroduċu jidher li ġewwa Bormla la darba nkunu modernizzajna, huwa servizz illi jibda jieħu ħsieb il-pis taċ-ċittadini Maltin u Għawċin. Għandna problema bl-obeżità. Jidher illi sena wara l-oħra ma ħanix irnexxielna nagħmlu inroads biex nindirizzawha. Tajjeb illi nibdu noffru servizz dedikat speċifikament biex nittakiljaw l-obeżità anke fil-komunità u fil-kura primarja tagħna. U f'Għawdex ukoll din is-sena lejn l-aħħar ta' Novembru ħankunu qegħdin niftħu wara li kellna numru ta' problemi hemmhekk mal-kuntratturi li kellna qabel, ċentru issa ġdid tas-saħħa ġewwa r-Rabat Għawdex. Ġifieri ħajkonna ċentru tas-saħħa tar-Rabat Għawdex illi issa ħajkun modern, kbir, biżżejjed biex jilqa' ċittadini Għawċin biex bekk nkunu kabbarna wkoll mal-ħolqa taċ-ċentri tas-saħħa illi għandna ġewwa Malta Għawdex. Ġifieri is-servizz tagħna jrid ikompli jespandi. Jrid jespandi mhux biss billi nżidu n-nies imma anke billi nżidu l-faċilitajiet. Il-viżjoni tagħna għax intkom illum qegħdin titkellmu fuq kif ħanimmassimizzaw u kif ħammorru l qudiem, issa hija li indaħlu kunċett ieħor. Aħna għandna l-kura primarja illi intkom u għandna l-kura terzjarja li huma l-isptarijiet qed nipexxina rassiju ta' Mater Dei hawnhekk. U rrid ngħid li aħna għandna servizz tas-saħħa wieħed ġewwa dan il-pajjiż. Il-pazjent huwa pazjent wieħed. Ma jinbidilx jew l-marda tiegħu ma tinbidilx għax jieħu l-kura fil-kura primarja jew għax jieħu l-kura fil-kura terzjarja huwa wieħed. U għalhekk qegħdin naħdmu u ġenejt nieħu pjaċir illi qed ikun hemm u nirringrazzja lil Rosen u lil Ray u l-Silja u l-Joe De Bono illi qegħdin jaħdmu ħafna flimkien biex is-sistemi tagħna u l-kura tagħna tkun seamless toħodha fejn toħodha. Wieħed mill-aspetti li qegħdin nafsu ħafna fuqhom hija l-kura tal-każijiet ta' emerġenza, tal-każijiet urġenti. Rridu naraw illi l-każijiet illi jmorru l-emerġenza ta' Mater Dei ikunu dak il-każijiet l nies li verament għandu bżonn imorru l-emerġenza ta' Mater Dei, imma illi jekk ikunu diġà ħadu xi servizz, xi workup, xi testijiet, sar diġà xi intervent fiċ-ċentri tas-saħħa tagħna, fil-bereġ tagħna, ikun hemm komunikazzjoni diretta mal-ispeċjalisti tal-emerġenza f'Mater Dei biex bekk kemm jista' jkun il-pazjent jieħu servizz illi ma jkunx idduplikat u kemm jista' jkun mingħajr skossi. U din rridu nagħmluha għax aħna għandna servizz tas-saħħa wieħed u rridu nagħtu fuq kollox aħna qegħdin hawnhekk għal għan wieħed biex nieħdu ħsieb il-pazjent tagħna u l-pazjent huwa wieħed. Però nerġa' ngħid għandna l-kura primarja u għandna l-kura terzjarja. M'għandniex il-kura sekondarja ġe dan il-pajjiż. U din rridu nagħmluha u tridu tkunu intkom. Il-kura sekondarja l-ismijiet mhuma xejn, nerġa' ngħid hija sistema waħda, hija kura waħda. Imma rridu issa għandna l-opportunità minnaw u ftit ġimgħat oħra, letteralment ġimgħat oħra, ħankunu qegħdin nibdew nagħtu mill-ewwel servizzi fiċ-ċentru reġjonali ċensu Mowran ta' Raħa Ġdid. L-ewwel ħaġa li ħajġri hu illi il-servizzi u l-istaff li hemm ġewwa ċ-ċentru tas-saħħa eżistenti ta' Raħa Ġdid ħajċċaqlaq għal ġo l-binja ġdida ġewwa Dej Schreiber. U ftit ġimgħat oħra la darba ikun lest l-aħħar ftit xogħol li fadal anke internament inkunu nistgħu nibdew nagħmlu żjarat, norganizzaw żjarat tal-ħaddiema u tal-professjonisti tagħna li għandna ġewwa Raħa Ġdid anke ġo ċentru ġdid biex ikunu jistgħu jaraw minn fejn se jkunu qegħdin jaħdmu fix-xhur li ġejjin. Imma li nbidlu ċ-ċentru biss, li naqbdu s-servizz u nagħmluh ġo binja sbaħ mhux biżżejjed. Għandna l-opportunità illi issa li ħanċaqalqu li ħammorru ġo binja akbar isbaħ u żiet attrezzata, inżidu s-servizzi tagħna. Fosthom billi għall-ewwel darba wara numru kbir ta' snin jerġa' jkollna servizz dentali fil-komunità, mhux bil-forsi tmur Mater Dei biex iċċekkjak dentist, imma f'Raħa Ġdid irid ikun ħajkollna kliniċi dentali, ħajkollna swali tal-operazzjonijiet fejn kun nistgħu operaw, ħajkollna outpatients clinics illi ikunu kważi estensjoni ta' Mater Dei, tal-outpatients ta' Mater Dei, u ħajkollna wkoll immediate medical care unit forma ta' emerġenza fejn ukoll ħankunu nistgħu nagħtu servizz tara lill-pazjenti tan-naħa t'isfel ta' Malta. Din hija f'pajjiżi oħra jgħidu l-kura sekondarja. U allura iva ħajkollna l-ewwel darba ġewwa pajjiżna servizz sekondarju tal-kura qed tissejjaħlu. Ħajkollna il-primary care, secondary care u tertiary care għalfejn. Però mbagħad ukoll irridu nkomplu nkabbru fuq dan il-kunċett. Waħda mill-affarijiet li qegħdin naħdmu fuqha u nirringrazzja l-CEO Ms. Camilleri li qed taħdem ħafna magħna fuqha di, hi li rridu jkollna espansjoni tas-servizz tal-screening ġewwa pajjiżna. Il-prevenzjoni hija importanti ħafna u mbagħad li taqbad kundizzjoni kmieni hija importanti ħafna wkoll. U allura aħna l-screening li qegħdin nagħmlu ġewwa l-Belt Valletta f'Binja llum għax is-servizz kiber saret żgħira, irridu hemmhekk nespanduh ukoll. Irridu ħammorru ġew binja ġdida, però maħniex biss ħanibdu l-binja, irridu nibdu l-kunċett ukoll. U fl-screening ukoll irridu naraw li jekk inti mort tagħmel screening għal colorectal u ġik pożittiv u għandek bżonn kolonoskopi, nagħmlulek hemmhekk stess. Jekk inti għamilt screening għal cervical cancer u għandek bżonn kolposkopi, nagħmlulek hemmhekk stess. Jekk inti għamilt mammogram u għandek xi ħaġa sospettuża u għandek bżonn biopsy, nagħmlulek hemmhekk stess. Ġifieri dan huwa servizz li ħajkun jekk tridu sejħulu secondary care, nsejħulu secondary care, imma nkunu qegħdin inkabruh biex bekk nkunu qegħdin nagħtu servizz aħjar il-pazjenti tagħna. Ġifieri din hija fejn irridu mmorru, irridu nkabru s-servizz, irridu ntejbu s-servizz, irridu nkomplu nitlu fil-komunità, imma wkoll irridu nagħmlu dik il-qabża illi s-servizz ikun seamless bejn minn mindu pazjent ħoss illi għandu problema, anke qabel bil-prevenzjoni, sakemm letteralment ikun it-trattament kollu. M'għandniex għalfejn noqogħdu ngħidu għax wieħed ta' wieħed u l-ieħor tal-ieħor, servizz wieħed u dan huwa din hija l-viżjoni tagħna u qed nieħu pjaċir nara li dan is-sentiment qed inħossuh qed iħossu kulħadd u qed naħdmu l-koll għalih. Ma baqali xejn ħlief nirringrazzjakom. Nirringrazzjakom nerġa' ngħid tal-mod ta' kif intkom tagħtu dan is-servizz kważi impeccabbli u nerġa' ngħid meta tħares lejn dak li jiġri madwar id-dinja tibda tapprezza kemm f'Malta verament għandna biex nkunu kburin. Kburin bis-servizzi li nagħtu, kburin bil-mod ta' kif naħdmu, kburin bir-riżultati li niksbu. Dan huwa kollu mertu tagħkom. Ftaħru bih, kunu kburin bih, u komplu għamlu dak li qegħdin tagħmlu ħalli nkomplu nagħtu servizz ta' eċċellenza għall-pazjenti Maltin Wawċin kollha. Nirringrazzjakom u nixtieqilkom il-kollu ġurnata tajba. Grazzi ħafna.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, for your speech. I now invite Ms. Roseanne Camilleri, Chief Executive Officer, Primary Healthcare, to give us an overview of the past 24 months of the primary healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fern, for a most inspiring opening address. We really appreciate you finding the time to join us, fully knowing your very busy schedule. Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, Permanent Secretary, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to welcome you all to the 2023 Primary HealthCare Biennial Conference, fastidiously titled Unlocking Its Full Potential. As the CEO of the Primary Healthcare, I am thrilled to see such a diverse and esteemed gathering of healthcare professionals, policymakers, researchers and advocates who are dedicated to advancing the field of primary healthcare. As many of you know, primary healthcare is considered as the cornerstone of any healthcare system. Its importance can never be overstated. With 10 health centres, 9 in Malta and 1 in Gozo, 28 community clinics and 12 more in the pipeline, as Mr. Fens rightly said, the Telemedicine Client Support Centre, the Occupational Health Service, the National Screening Centre and the multidisciplinary workforce, we should indeed be the first point of contact for individuals seeking healthcare services. We play a vital role in preventive care, health promotion and disease management. However, despite this significance, primary healthcare often faces numerous challenges and limitations that hinder its full potential. This conference serves as a platform for us to collectively explore and address these challenges. Together, we will look at the various dimensions of primary healthcare. And through the carefully chosen topics that will be discussed by the various panelists, we will examine primary healthcare's impact on individuals and communities. We will also touch upon the innovative approaches we have undertaken to unlock its full potential, to create a healthier and more equitable society. Topics such as patient-centered care, healthcare delivery models, health equity, digital health solutions, and the integration of primary healthcare with other sectors. Through the engaging keynote speech by Grant Thornton, reviewing the before and after, and the interactive panel discussions, we will aim to foster and promote a collaborative environment where ideas can be exchanged, knowledge is shared, and partnerships are formed. It is my hope that this conference will serve as a catalyst to continue to push the transformative change program that started 4 years ago, so that together we will succeed in positioning the primary healthcare to fully become the patient's automatic point of choice. We must acknowledge that primary healthcare is not only about treating illnesses, but also about promoting health and well-being at all stages of life. It is about addressing the social determinants of health, advocating for health equity, and ensuring that everyone, regardless of their background or circumstances, has access to quality healthcare services. The past two conferences, titled Together Towards Excellence in 2019 and Excellence and Beyond in 2021, paved the way for the theme of this biennial conference. We have already started to reap the benefits of this mega transformation and modernization program that we have initiated in 2019. The 10 million NDSF grant secured in 2019 is facilitating the fulfillment of the holistic transformation of primary healthcare. And in so doing, we continue to move closer to unlock its full potential. The COVID-19 challenged us to work faster by communicating better and by breaking down internal silos. We have successfully embraced innovation and technological advancements. We took the opportunity and rode on digital health solutions, introduced telemedicine, the electronic patient health records IT system, and revolutionized the way we deliver care, improved patient outcomes, and enhanced the overall healthcare experience. Indeed, the ability to drive to continually innovate is key. Presently, we are also working on the introduction of the first chatbot, which will focus on client support services across health. And we are venturing on exploring the potential of the application of AI algorithms in breast screening, eye screening, and ECG services. If successful, the harnessing of AI can significantly improve primary healthcare services by helping healthcare providers to operate more efficiently and to allocate resources more effectively. Building on our ISO international certification, we are now moving on to attain clinical accreditation. We will hear more on this from one of our panelists. Indeed, we must recognize that primary healthcare cannot work in isolation. It requires collaboration and partnerships across sectors, including education, social services, and community organizations. By integrating primary healthcare in these sectors, we can address the broader determinants of health and create comprehensive and holistic care models that truly meet the needs of individuals and communities. Equally important is sustaining patient empowerment. By continuing to create a supportive and collaborative environment where patients feel respected and heard, patients are more likely to feel involved and engaged in their care pathways. As we continue this journey of unlocking the full potential of primary healthcare, I urge each and every one of you to actively engage, share experiences, and contribute your expertise. Only together we can shape the future of our healthcare. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the organizing committee, our sponsors, and all the speakers and participants who have dedicated their time and efforts to make this conference possible. Your commitment in advancing primary healthcare is commendable. In conclusion, let me embrace this opportunity to unlock the full potential of primary healthcare. Let us collaborate, innovate, and advocate for a health system that truly puts the health and well-being of individuals and community at the forefront. I am confident that our collective efforts will lead to the completion of the desired transformative change program in line with our projected targets. While I wish you all a productive and inspiring conference, I would like to invite you to watch this short clip showcasing the primary healthcare's remarkable infrastructure transformation trajectory to date. A transformation that aims to create a space that portrays a general feeling of well-being for the patients and our staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Camilleri, for the interesting and motivating speech. We are very honored and privileged to have you as our team leader. Now, I cordially request Mr. George Vella, Head of Advisory and Partner at Grant Thornton, to come on stage for his speech.
Thank you. This is our second invite now. As the Minister was saying, we come from a profession where to make a difference is slightly difficult, not as in your case. So this is one of the projects we have supported some years ago and continue to support, and we carry a lot of pride in it as well, because we know that there are outcomes coming out of it which are quite interesting. So this time around, we've gained much more traction, because the last time we met, it was still in the initial stages. Now we have a number of reports that we are going to be summarizing here. However, there is much more detail to it than there is in these slides. So going directly into the subject matter, as we said, some years ago, I think it was 18 or 19, we have been engaged to support the primary healthcare to obtain the funding from NDSF with a very clear specific use for those funds, to refurbish health centers, to refurbish community centers, and to create centers of excellence. And we're here also because NDSF asked us to ensure that when this money is being spent, we showcase the results that are achieved. So this is like, the slide is just saying how we've gone there. Once the grant was awarded, then the surveys that we're going to be summarizing in this presentation kick-started, despite the fact, unfortunately, that we had a slowdown a little bit because of the pandemic. But now in this year and in the previous year, we really made up for the lost ground. So how did we go about it? We obviously had to do a pre-review to see what the state was before the intervention. And now we are coming in through a phase where we are also seeing the post-implementation review. And mainly what we're focusing on is, what are your patients, what are your clients saying about how they perceive the service before the interventions, and how they are now perceiving the service afterwards. So obviously we're focusing on patient satisfaction, first points of access, awareness, accessibility, and service delivery. This is not news to you. You know where the health centers are, where the two new secondary health centers are going to be located, and the 20 different community clinics. So how is the reform being monitored? So we carried out patient surveys targeting all patients at each of the 8 health centers. Then we also carry out a population survey, and in the initial part of the presentation, we'll be focusing on what the patients are talking about, then what the population, not necessarily people who are actually using your services, and obviously supporting that through internal record verification. So I hope you can see that, but these are the surveys that were carried out. The dots in blue are the pre-intervention patient surveys we carried out. The white ones are the post-implementation patient surveys. So by now we've already carried 4, 1 in 2021 and 3 in 2023. The light blue is the population survey, and that had to happen earlier so that we know exactly what the perceptions out there were. So as you can see now, the number of surveys that have been carried out is picking up ground. There will be much more coming through, and hopefully the results of these surveys will add a lot of value to what you are trying to achieve. So if we go directly into the results, these are the pre-intervention patient surveys. And in here, when we're looking at the accessibility of health centers, health center facilities, and PHC systems, we have in general quite some high scores. However, at that point, Gozo and Gżira were low. And now we'll see how the post-intervention, how these results have changed after the intervention was carried out. This is another interesting fact. We ask the people who are already your patients, what is your first point of contact within your community? And then some of them in Rabat, in Gozo, Gżira, and Kospikwa, the health center was the first point of call, whereas in Ormi, Birkirkara, Florian, and Mosta, the most predominant was the private GP. However, I need to highlight that these were surveys carried out by people who are already using your services. At a later stage, when we look at the population survey, we'll see some distinct differences. Service delivery. In terms of positive satisfaction levels with the healthcare professionals, as you can see, the first part of the table is something that I wasn't surprised with, because we know that the service that you provide is incredible. However, as the Minister was saying, that is not the only thing that patients look for, but they also want to have a holistic service. And one of the things that we looked at are waiting time at all health centers. So the first seen on time, 30% of walk-ins are seen on time, 47% of referrals are seen on time, and 51% of follow-ups were seen on time, with some delays registered in the next few lines. I think from the surveys we carried out, it's very clear that lengthy waiting times bear a huge influence on patient satisfaction and perception of the healthcare system. In fact, lengthy waiting times is the most common response among those patients who do not view the healthcare as their first point of contact. So this is the first interesting thing that came out. Another thing that we've learned was the surveys also revealed that 57% of respondents would prefer to get treated by the same healthcare professional, while the rest have no particular preference. And this is possibly one of the reasons why people would prefer their GP rather than the healthcare system, the primary healthcare system, because possibly of lack of perceived continuity in the healthcare professional. And this implies that continuity of care and familiarity is an important factor among patients. Now, when we start going into the results of comparing the pre and post intervention analysis. So in Gżira, the satisfaction with facilities grew from 67% to 89%, and satisfaction with PHC system grew from 71% to 89%, and the first point of contact grew from 47% to 65%. So those are considerable, in my opinion, considerable good results. In Birkirkara, on the other hand, the pre-intervention, the satisfaction with facilities grew from 81% to 89%, whereas the satisfaction with PHC system grew from 83% to 90%. In terms of first point of contact, this grew from 47% to 67% post-intervention, and this is a very clear demonstration of how important these interventions are. Another very interesting one is the Podiatry Center of Excellence Patient Survey. Here again, the satisfaction levels grew significantly, so whereas pre-implementation we scored 5 with 64% of respondents. After the intervention, 83% answered, ticked as very satisfied. And there are no one who is ticking extremely dissatisfied. In 2021, 40% of patients reported observing a great improvement in the level of care at the Podiatry Center of Excellence over a 2-year period. This is up from 15% reported in 2019, which is the pre-intervention period, and no patient reported deterioration in the level of care. So these are quite some interesting ones. Again, waiting times. So let's start off follow-up. Follow-up has in 52% in 2021 as 81% in 2019. So in terms of referrals, 18% in 2019 going up to 34%, and walk-ins from 1% in 2019 to 14% in 2021. The number of patients that were seen on time after the intervention increased by 7 percentage points. The number of patients that were not seen on time decreased, as can be seen in the chart on the right-hand side. So there the post-intervention is the blue bar, and the pre-intervention is the gray bar, and all the changes are in the right direction. Now, when it comes to the population survey, so this is now with people who are not necessarily using your services. 71% of the population feel that they are either somewhat satisfied or very satisfied with the primary health care. The majority of individuals who indicated that they are neutral and somewhat dissatisfied fall within the 18 to 34 age bracket, and the 35 to the 54 age bracket. Now, when it comes to utilization of health centers and community clinics, here are some interesting results. So in the first population, 71% make use of health centers services in a typical year, but only 90% of the population utilize the services offered at their local community clinic. The population is largely unaware. These are some findings that we found. The population is largely unaware of the opening hours and services offered at the community clinics, and 49% of the population are not familiar with the services offered at their local community clinic, while 62% of the population are unaware of the opening hours. Now, these findings will be re-evaluated when the post-intervention, so this was just a pre-implementation. This is the one which I mentioned should be compared to a previous slide. So 62% of the population view their private GP as their first point of contact for minor medical problems. 15% resort to self-care, and only 12 view health centers as their first point of contact. So you can see the big difference between the results achieved here and the results achieved when we were doing the patient surveys in your clinics themselves. Key reasons preventing individuals from using health center services at their first point of access are personal preference to the family GP, 36%, followed by long waiting times, 26%, and health centers being distant from respondents' homes, 13%. Key reasons for choosing health center were the quality of service provided within health centers, followed by close proximity of the health center and free service. Our survey discovered that patient preference for private GPs is a constant trend among all age brackets, indicating that there might be factors such as cultural barriers at play. However, 34% of such individuals still indicated that they would not, suggesting that some patients' choice not to use health centers as their first point of contact might stem from individual preference. These findings will again be evaluated in the post-intervention. Now, when it comes to community clinics, here again, 69% of people were seen on time in community clinics, and 25% only had to wait for 15 minutes. In terms of satisfaction with service received, here we had no detractors. The results were quite impressive, actually. 87% of respondents rated the service as 10, 9% level satisfaction from 1 to 10 at 9, and 4% at 8. Satisfaction with facilities still very high, 84% at 10, 13% on 9, and 2% on 8. So these are quite interesting. This is how the Net Promoter Score works. So the promoters are the people who would score you 9 or 10. The passives are the ones who would score you between 7 and 8. And the detractors are 0 to 6. So as you can imagine, this is quite a very difficult way of how to get high scores on it, and the Net Promoter Score on community clinics is as strong as 97%. So that is, so we only had 90% of respondents provided a scale rating of 10, while 7 provided a scale rating of 9. And we only had 3% of respondents were passives between 7 and 8, and none scored between 0 to 6. So that's quite an interesting one. I'll stop here. I'm looking forward as much as you to the results coming through in the coming surveys. But as you can see, if you recall last time, we had very limited surveys. Now it's very clear that the trend is coming through very, very nicely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Vella. We can now proceed to welcome the panel moderator, Mr. Keith Demicoli.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Fantastic job to you.
Thank you.
Allow me to say hello. Thank you so much, Deborah. I would like to thank all the organizers, including Deborah, because as soon as they decided to have a sofa, they said, okay, let's have Keith to host the discussion, given the analogy between Poġġi Keith and Kelmu fuq xi street. And coincidentally, the brains behind the idea of having the sofa all over in Malta is the daughter of Margaret, sorry. She's somewhere here, actually. Margaret, just wave at me if I may. Margaret, okay, here she is. So her daughter Sarah came up with this brilliant idea to interview perfect strangers on anything and everything. But today we're going to focus possibly to discuss on how we can improve those results. Thank you so much, George, Honourable Deputy Prime Minister as well, and Ms. Camilleri for your speeches. So with that, I'll leave it to Deborah to introduce the panelists.
Thank you. Introducing the first group panel, titled The Multidisciplinary Team in the Community Clinics. We welcome on stage Dr. Charmaine Cremona. Mr. Kurt Azzopardi. Mr. Jeffrey Formosa. Mr. Carmel Cordina. And Mr. Ronald Barbara. I would like to inform you that questions will be taken at the end of the fifth panel. Now I leave the floor to Mr. Demicoli.
Please. Thank you. So, thank you so much. I know it's a long way. So, my role is to make it as engaging, dynamic as possible. So, Having a good sofa, it's already a good start. So, if I may start with you, Ronald, and possibly can take us through, and also you can help me as an outsider here, on what do we mean by primary healthcare.
Okay, so.
Sure, absolutely. Here you go.
Thank you. Hello. We've already heard what primary healthcare is. So, Ms. Rosen Camilleri said something about it, and also the Deputy Prime Minister. Primary healthcare is part of our health system, and as it brought by its name, it's primary. So, the promotion, the prevention, and also the protection of health is part of the fundamental right of each individual. So it is important that we as a team, we look for this one. Our vision is that we integrate our health together as a one-stop shop concept to our clients. If you look behind us, we've got our logo. And our logo shows 3 capital C's, which are integrated together for a continuous care. In fact, the capital C's are our commitment, our patient care, and the community care.
Wow, wonderful, intriguing, fascinating. I had no idea whatsoever, so thank you so much for sharing that, Ronald. Dr. Charmaine, if I may, because we've already heard from the Honourable Prime Minister, Ms. Camilleri, and also from George in his presentation, that over the past few years you've managed to achieve so much, but possibly you can enlighten us on what are the primary goals and objectives for setting up community clinics.
Yes, community clinics, Keith, align with the philosophy of primary care, like Ronald said, whereby we aim to provide continuous, comprehensive, and patient-centered care according to the needs of the patients. Now, this project started around mid-2021, with Marsa Xlok being one of the first ones being opened. And the idea to open these clinics stemmed from the wish to improve patient care and healthcare in the community, to offer a holistic approach to care, to offer continuity of care, like we've seen in the surveys mentioned before, how patients find these very important to be seen by the same doctor over and over again for continuity of care, and to offer cost-effective care as well. Today, we have over 25 of these clinics that are open, and like the Deputy Prime Minister mentioned before, there are more in the pipeline.
I know this might come as a surprise to you, Dr. Charmaine, but I was a bit struck by the 19% from George's presentation that they think of the community clinic first. Are you somehow surprised with that figure?
No, because we're offering a service within the community for these patients. There is a holistic approach to care, whereby we do not only think about the physical needs of the patients, but they also have a space where they can have their emotional and social needs taken care of. Yesterday there was an article, in fact, on the Times of Malta, how general practitioners have the capability of seeing and understanding social problems even before the patient mentions them themselves. So our aim is to be able to offer these services as close as possible to the patients within the setting of their community.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Charmaine. It was already mentioned earlier on, Carmel, regarding Gozo, and the good news is that we're going to have a new health center in Victoria. But maybe you can enlighten us a bit on the role of the nurse, specifically at the Gozo main health center and the peripheral clinics as well.
The Gozo New Victoria Health Center will open in mid or late November. And
I believe you're very excited to that, right?
As clients and patients alike. And we will migrate staff and services there. We are extending the hours during the night, maybe not the whole night, but till late, very late. And as the area permits, it is larger than the old Victoria Health Center, and we will increase the services. For example, we will have 2 large treatment rooms with 4 couches, when at present we have only 2. GP rooms we will have 3, and the NIS will return to the New Victoria together with specialized clinics like diabetes, ACC, services that are new for Gozo, but they are routine given in Malta.
So there is a significant improvement in the services offered from the health center in Gozo.
Accessibility, parking, and new services. The other new project is the ALA, where we will have, it will open for a 5-day week, and it will have run
later this year, right?
Later in October. And 4 services will run in the same time. We will have a specialized ophthalmic clinic where we will have the services of screening together, opening every day. Together with the podology, nurse-led clinic, GP for a whole 2 days, and speech therapy. Also at Shawkiya, we started the services of GP because the barrage used to have the half-hour or 1 hour a day of GP, and in the community. So at Shawkiya we have 5 hours times 2 a week on Mondays and Wednesdays, where clients can do an appointment and be seen and followed up by the GP.
Thank you so much, Carmel, Ronald, and also Dr. Charmaine, for giving us a general overview. And now, if I may, I'm going to zoom in on some specific services, namely podiatry and physiotherapy, possibly starting with you, Jeffrey, if I may. Can you describe both personally and professionally the physiotherapy experience within the community clinics?
Hello everyone. Thanks for the invite. The physiotherapy experience was a learning curve. We started off with some hiccups as usual, but now things have improved quite a lot. We realized we had to be flexible and we had to adapt to the situation because it's a continuously changing process. To do this, we built up teams. We did a multidisciplinary team which acted both informally and formally to help to expedite this process. A lot of little things that have to be done, so behind the scenes work we call it. But we did well, and I think now it's quite established and is doing well. Of course, the staff needed to adapt because we are used to working as a team, as a physiotherapy team. And now in the community clinics, you're working in a multidisciplinary team with different needs and different problems. So I think that is the biggest learning curve, and we learned from other professions, podiatry, speech and nursing and GPs. We talk and we learned a lot.
What is the biggest advantage of having a multidisciplinary team?
The biggest advantage is that the customer can be seen holistically. So if, for example, I think that I need the help of the podiatrist, all I have to do is contact my colleague, and we can do it either there and then, or maybe, when the first appointment is available. So it did really do a lot of difference.
But allow me to just congratulate you, Jeffrey, because I really love your outlook. It's amazingly positive, and that's how we all should embrace your outlook as well, because that's the kind of mindset we need in front of all the challenges that we face, not only in the healthcare but in life in general. So, Kurt, if I may, possibly you can share with us your experience in the community clinics, but from a podiatry perspective.
Well, mainly as podiatrists in community clinics, we offer almost all services provided at primary healthcare level. with the exception of the specialized podiatry clinics. Just as a brief overview, we provide routine skin and nail care, biomechanical assessment, diabetic foot screenings as well. We are also involved in the prevention and management of diabetic foot ulcers. And since these usually require frequent weekly visits before they are completely resolved, it is very convenient for the patient to attend these visits within his own locality. We are also at a very advantageous position to, as has already been mentioned, to refer to the multidisciplinary team, because as soon as we open the door, we have like 5 other professions that are readily available. We have a smaller workforce, so there is less rotation, less staff rotation, so we're seeing the same faces day in, day out. And it facilitates the referral process. It makes it easier to follow up on the progress of a particular patient, maybe consult for some advice regarding the treatment. And I think that these are the right ingredients to establish a multidisciplinary team that is functioning at its best.
Kiet, with the opening up of many other community clinics, what is the way forward for podiatrists in these clinics?
Well, to answer this question, we must first understand that community clinics are a form of decentralization in healthcare, and what this means is that we are aiming mainly to increase the accessibility of the healthcare to the patient, but there is also another aim which happens at an administrative level to increase efficiency, mainly because the decentralized health professional is further away from the central administrative body, hence increasing his autonomy and making him more flexible to deal with the specific situation that is happening within that community clinic. However, for this to function, you need to focus on 2 factors for this future plan, which is capacity and accountability. You need to have capable people working to make effective use of that freedom, which is achieved through training, and we already have within the Allied Health Staff Development and Training Task Force. We're adopting a very smart approach, I must say, to training these individuals by first providing a self-evaluation form so that we are able to communicate our specific needs, which they in turn use to provide specific training programs to each health professional. And with the second factor, accountability, it basically means that you have the right checks and balances in place to make sure that the standard of quality of care is being met. Already, our management team has a quality assurance team established, whereby they establish KPIs, followed by regular audits to determine if we are reaching these objectives. And I believe that the future plan should build upon these existing strategies so that we can maximize the benefits of our decentralized healthcare system.
Jeffrey, I don't know, given that you're next to Kurt, but besides capacity and accountability, which were highlighted by Kurt, what other initiatives or measures you foresee that we should undertake to improve the current services?
From a physiotherapy point of view, obviously we have a lot of ideas. Some of them we haven't yet told management about. One of them which we really want to work on next year is what's known as first contact practice, which basically means that the patient can be seen by a physiotherapist instead of another allied health professional or a doctor immediately. We're obviously referring to musculoskeletal conditions, which is what we normally treat. I believe this initiative will help to alleviate a bit the load on our GPs, because as we know, about 40 to 45% of cases which are seen in health centers are mostly musculoskeletal. Our idea, of course, we need to discuss this, but our idea is to have a physiotherapist who is present in the treatment room who can actually help out the doctors with any musculoskeletal cases that come along.
Fantastic. On the same line, Dr. Cremona, maybe you can mention and outline any incentives that you're focusing on and possibly you're already contemplating, considering to improve the overall community well-being.
Yes, Keith. There are many exciting things planned for the near future, but just to mention a few that they are right now in the pipeline, we are going to introduce a pathway where our healthcare professionals can identify non-communicable diseases. We are going to offer training to all the healthcare professionals working within our community clinic, as well as a pathway as an opportunity for health promotion and to have a clear referral system. And another screening tool, which is in the process right now, we're going to introduce a pathway for reality, whereby within these community clinics, we are going to give the tools to our healthcare professionals in order to be able to flag and identify patients and people who are frail within the community, so that we will have the opportunity to refer them as quickly as possible, both to primary care and, if needed be, to the geriatrics department or tertiary care as needed.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Cremon. I truly admire the way you communicate in a very clear way. So thank you so much for that. Ronald, I know that you're very passionate, a passionate nurse. Both Jeffrey, basically all of you, already gave us an overview of why it's essential to have a multidisciplinary team. But from your point of view, why it's so critical to improve the current system and services?
Every patient, every client has his own needs. And as we've seen even in the surveys, it is not just the service that we give. There is the expectation. I'm a nurse in profession, and I represent some of my colleagues here and even my community care nurses. The important is that we have a multidisciplinary approach which is integrated together, and everybody will know the patient inside out from top to bottom. Let's take an example. If we have a patient who comes in with a case of a diabetes, it is not just to check the glucose and you know that the patient knows how to take his medication. You have to see and you have to assess the patient, even the risk of his disease. We know that diabetes can deteriorate into problems with retinopathies, that means with your vision, problem with neuropathy, with nerves and vascular system, and also they might even deteriorate even their kidney function. So the important is that you see the patient holistically. And this is one of the most things that I'm proud of, being part of this team, that we work together and we refer patients, even nurses refer patients to the podologist to take care of their toenails, to prevent infections. We also refer patients to our physios, so they can help the patient to see how they can walk, his gait, probability if they need proper shoes. We also integrate with the nutritionists, the dietitians, because believe me, we still got patients who they suffer even financially, that every day they either eat pastizzi or they eat timpana. So education is very, very, very important. In fact, looking in patient holistically, we also involve outside stakeholders like a POCH, domestic violence, mental health. So we see the patients totally from top to bottom, and the idea is, and we're passionate about it, we have a whole society concept towards health, not just to treat, but to prevent, promote, and give a better well-being, because it will be beneficial not just for the individual, but for the society as a whole, and also the Ministry of Health and our finances and our resources. We can benefit from that.
So, Ronald, what you're saying is, besides the healthcare, you also look into the emotional and the psychological well-being of the patient.
Yes. In fact, Ms. Camilleri mentioned it before. We look also at the whole social determinants of health. We have to see people, what they're eating, how they dress up, if their personal integrity, their mental status. Sometimes we've got patients, some of my colleagues can tell you, they can come just to spend some time to speak with us because they are lonely. That is also part of our concept.
That's a growing issue, isn't it?
It is.
I know, Dr. Charmaine, it's part of your professional duties as well. Maybe you can share some insights into it.
Yes, as my colleague correctly mentioned, the fact that there is a multidisciplinary approach within these clinics, apart from the holistic care that we've mentioned, the social, physical, emotional aspect of to cater for all the patient needs, there is less fragmentation as well, so that the patient is aware that the difficulties or the health needs that the patient is experiencing, there is a team of professionals within the same block. Okay? Apart from that, we learn from each other. Okay? Because medical education is a lifelong process. So having different expertise under the same roof helps for collaboration. And when there is collaboration, there is learning as well. Because we are all in a profession where there is lifelong learning and continued professional development. And having specialists in their own field working together under the same roof, the collaboration automatically means that we're sharing experiences and learning from each other, apart from the team building experience, which makes the work process much more enjoyable.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cremona. One last question, if I may, to Carmel. Even though, Carmel, I have to commend you because in your introductory remarks, you outlined everything, all the 3 questions that I had prepared. But possibly you can give us some insights on the differences between the primary healthcare in Malta and in Gozo. Do you see any peculiarities, any specific challenges or opportunities?
The first challenge is the place we were presently from. It's an old place and there is a lot of traffic. You can't park, but that will be solved soon with the opening of the new Victoria. The other issue is that but in the early 90s, the health center was inside the GGH, part of the hospital, but the two, the GGH and the health center are both in Victoria, but our vision is to communicate with the general public, as Mr. Fern said, that certain services or certain issues that the client might present with can be so easily solved with less waiting time at the primary healthcare. This is a matter of communication and public education. The difference also between Malta and Gozo, and we strive for it, is that certain services are offered by the nurses or the multidisciplinary team in Malta. And we are introducing with the new Victoria Health Center and the community clinics certain services that are being offered in Malta, and now they will be new for Gozo.
Such as?
Such as the ophthalmic clinic that will run a 5-day week, and there will be the eye screening together with the orthoptics and the optometrist. And the duration of the services will be 40 hours a week for an ophthalmic clinic, which is new for Gozo. Other services like the mental health clinic, which will be in Victoria, the podology, which we started at ARP, and it will extend to Ala and to the new Victoria. These are services that in Malta have been for a long time, but will be new for Gozo. They are both the GGH and are both in Victoria, but with the introduction of the well-equipped community clinics and with the education of the general public, we will be in par with the services in Malta.
So, Carmel, can proudly say that we are truly unlocking the full potential of primary healthcare in Gozo.
Exactly, because the primary healthcare Gozo gives the services for the Gozitans, the residents, and the visitors. And the visitors, especially on weekends, the Gozo population will double, like the last long weekend.
Of course. Carmel Cordina, Ronald Barbara, Jeffrey Formosa, Kerta Sopardi, Dr. Charmaine Cremona, thank you so much for your valuable input in the first panel discussion. I wish you all the very best. So, thank you, Ron. Thanks. Thanks, Carmel.
Introducing the second group panel, titled New Services. We welcome on stage Ms. Bernice Mikallef, Ms. Silona Police, Ms. Flair Bujeya, and Ms. Marika Podda-Conner. At the end of this panel, a 1-minute video will be presented by Dr. Marius Caruana.
Much of Bernice. Thank you. Hi, thank you so much. Thank you, Flair. All right, thank you, Mar. Thank you so much, Deborah, and to all the panelists. So, as Deborah mentioned, we do have a short recorded message by Dr. Marius, which will roll later on. Maybe I can start straight away by asking a question to Bernice Mikallef, a senior practice nurse. So Bernice, feel free to take a microphone. Flair as well, feel free to take a microphone as well. Maybe you can just give us an overview of what sort of services have been introduced, new services lately, because this panel discussion focuses primarily on new services.
Basically, this year we have introduced the glaucoma screening in the community as well. It's an opportunistic screening where we provide an opportunity for all the clients who attend the community clinic to discuss the condition, glaucoma basically, and offer them a non-invasive screening service basically. Apart from this, we have also introduced the Birkirkara ophthalmic services as well. Okay. Recently.
And now Ronald just told us you're going to introduce the service in Gozo as well.
Gozo as well.
And what was the take-up so far?
So far we have invested in the eye screening, both in Gozo as well. In Gozo we're going to be much more different. We're going to be more, not only specific on glaucoma. We need to invest on the eye screening in general. When it comes to the community, we have only took one condition, which is glaucoma, so that we can provide more education and services in the community as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bernice. I don't know if you heard Ronald, he was mentioning pastizzi and timpana earlier on. The good news is we're going to have lunch in less than 2 hours, okay? So bear with me. But Flair, I know that together with many other healthcare professionals, I know that by profession you're a registered nutritionist, but I know that you're working on the obesity strategy. What will change with this strategy, and what have you managed to achieve so far?
Thank you, Kate. In fact, as nutritionists at Primary Healthcare, we feel privileged that we have been at the forefront in the development of this new obesity strategy. We know that year after year, Malta has experienced a consistent rise in obesity, which carries both health implications, but also it is a burden on the Maltese healthcare costs. Moreover, there are global and European efforts which are urging nations to develop comprehensive strategies with regards to obesity. When it comes to primary healthcare, the new obesity strategy, it will foster a holistic approach where healthcare professionals will be moving away from just focusing on weight loss to a more comprehensive approach where we will be addressing dietary habits, physical activity, mental health, education, lifestyle factors, among others. Also, I have to mention that all of our service users, for the first time, will benefit from personalized care. So while the dietitian, I have Alona over here who will speak more about that in detail, while the dietitian can provide a customized dietetic plan for patients, us nutritionists, since also doctors, dietitians, they have a limited time with the patient, we have an 8-week program where we can teach, provide the skills, and also provide additional support which is needed to maintain healthier dietary habits. Also, there will be the support of a psychologist through motivational interviewing, which will address barriers and difficulties which the patients face. Many times, it's not just an issue of eat less, move more, all right? So we have to see the patient holistically, and we have to see what is really the underlying cause why a patient would revert to food, what barriers, what are the difficulties which they are encountering in losing their weight. Also, finally, the use of EPR, which will be for record keeping, and also it will facilitate and ensure a smooth transition between us healthcare professionals and also for patients between appointments.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Flair. I know that for many of you, you know the difference between nutritionist and dietitian, right? But for many, they use them interchangeably and they think they're the same, but your roles are different professionally. So maybe, Ilona, you can enlighten us on what is your role as a professional dietitian and other professionals like your good self in the obesity management and strategy.
Thank you, Kate. As we know, obesity is incredibly complex, and helping people with this disease requires multiple approaches. Obviously, the first approach has to be first-line therapy as diet. It should be as first-line therapy. However, for some people, that alone is not sufficient. For some people who come to us and we read their blood results and have got other multiple diseases, then we need to resort to pharmacotherapy, such as certain medications, or even at times surgery. So yes, for some people, just diet approaches alone will definitely work, but for other people, dietary intervention has to be in conjunction with pharmacotherapy and, if possible, surgery as well, depending on the client. I'm saying depending on the client because obesity is multifactorial. People who are obese, it's not just because they eat more. It could be one of the factors, but there are other several factors such as genetics, sleep, lack of sleep, maybe moods, other disorders, medications that they're on, side effects of other medications. So the role of the dietitian is to factor all these factors within the dietary intervention, not just by asking people to eat less and to improve their diet, because sometimes it can be a bit damaging to just tell people, eat less, eat less. I'm sure that many of the people who are here, you can relate. If you ever tried to lose weight, and first you try to just eat less, or to go on a specific diet, which you've heard recently. Sometimes it works, yes, but sometimes, very often, the weight comes back. And what happens is that there's a new diet in, and someone would recommend it, or you've seen it somewhere, and you try dieting again. Dieting works, yes, as long as you're dieting, but what happens after? And if you regain all that weight, what happens, especially if there are other comorbidities related to obesity? So it's important that there's a health professional, such as a dietitian, who is a professional in the area, who can really guide the person and who can sort of like give those skills to the patient to help them understand what works and what doesn't, especially in relation to their specific needs, to their specific conditions, to their specific blood results. Something important which dietitians do is we help people not just to lose weight and to have a diet plan specific for them according to their needs, but also to be more health literate. Health literacy doesn't relate only to people who are of a certain educational level. many people can have low health literacy, even if they have a good educational level. Health literacy, especially when it comes to dieting terms. So, yes, we need to empower patients by explaining their blood results to them, even if a patient might seem of low health literacy. When you literally dedicate time and you show them that they are really a priority for you at that moment and that you have the sufficient time to explain it to them, the results, they would take interest and they feel empowered. The problem is that if, for example, there weren't dietitians, because we're quite new to the medical field, for example, dietitians started graduating in Malta within the past 6 years, so that's why we're quite new. Before, doctors used to, or other health professionals used to give advice here and there. You know how it is with diet and food. Everyone sort of like is interested and everyone feels like they can pitch in to the advice. However, within a 15-minute consultation with a doctor, even if the doctor is really passionate about the subject, it's difficult to carve out sufficient time to dedicate to dietary needs and proper dietary interventions, especially when we need to factor in the health choices that the patient is making, the portion sizes, why they're eating that kind of food, and their lifestyle. Some people may have all the intentions to lose weight, to follow a healthier lifestyle. However, when they come to practice, it will be hard for them, because that's the reality. Life is hard sometimes. If your life changed sufficiently, you had several changes, how can you all of a sudden expect someone to just go home and diet because your health is poor? So just before the next time I see you again, you have to make sure that you have lost like 30 kilos. That would be very disheartening for a patient. So yes, such patients need dietitians, nutritionists, and a whole MDT approach together with, for example, psychologists, so that they can factor in the psychosocial area of obesity, and as well other health professionals as well, such as GPs, and there would be a full integration of an MDT. So yes, that is our role of dietitians within an obesity strategy, to see as well the human part of a person who is obese, not just to assist them in weight loss, but to see their holistic health, including their human part as well.
Elona, thank you so much for your detailed explanation. Ms. Camilleri this morning in her speech, she said, let's have this collaborative approach together, and that's what we're trying to achieve today. Possibly you can help us understand the collaborative dynamics and possibly the multidisciplinary approach that you're adopting, and what dietary interventions you're integrating within the system.
I believe that no one kind of health professional can deal with all of it. I can't deal with an obesity strategy just on my own because I am a dietitian. I need the help, the knowledge, the skills, and the integration from other health professionals. So you asked, Flair, what's the difference between what we've been doing and an obesity strategy? To me, yes, the difference is that there's going to be more integration amongst health professionals, which is really, really important. I've been with primary healthcare for the past 6 years, and I've seen obese people, overweight people, people with obesity, and also multiple comorbidities throughout the whole past 6 years. However, through liaising with other healthcare professionals, then it can truly be a smooth transition and helpful for not just us professionals, but also the patients themselves. So by integrating, yes, other healthcare professionals into a systematic strategy, then we can provide a better solution and a smoother transition for such patients as well. And in doing so, we can also help to reduce the stigma as well, because unfortunately obesity has some stigma